is Heather Christensen. I apologize in advance. I'm going to be looking over at the questions I was asked to answer. So, what made me want to be in teaching? I did not decide that while I was in high school, and I actually worked in retail management. My favorite part of the job was actually training people. I had been told for a long time that I was good working with kids and that I enjoyed teaching things, and I did, but I wasn't really ready to hear that message, so I decided this later. And I actually took the route of becoming a paraprofessional in a school to kind of make up my mind, because I didn't want to go to college for a second thing that I wasn't going to use. What technical skills are needed to be in this job? This is an area where you have to go to college. That is not an option not to. There are many different formats depending on the state that you live in, the state that you plan to work in, the state that you go to college in, and the programs that they offer at the different universities, but you will definitely have to get a degree of some type, and then you have to become licensed in the state or states in which you plan to teach. There is also something called National Board Certification that you can do if you choose. And teaching is a field that you will continue to update your credits all the time. So there's a lot of different things that you'll end up going back to school for. What classes should you take in high school to pursue this career? Well, if you get an opportunity to do some volunteering in different classrooms, whether they call that a field experience for you, or whether it's job shadowing, or if you just have a period that's a study hall and you can work it out to go down and volunteer in an elementary classroom or in one of the special areas. Volunteering in a high school one is a little weird when you're in high school, so I'm not sure if they would allow you to do that. However, all of those experiences are really great. It also would be a really good idea, if you can do a job shadow or something, to look at a school different than your size, different than your demographics, because you never really know what you're going to do. My specific job is in special education. There's a lot of privacy rules with that. However, if you can coordinate that piece with someone, special education is a major shortage area, and it is a very rewarding career, but it's also something you want to see before you do, because it is not for everyone. What type of college degree is required? You can get it different ways, but ultimately a 4-year degree is required. How long was your education? Well, as I mentioned, I took kind of an interesting route to get here. So I actually took 6 years to get my elementary ed degree, worked for 2 years in education, and then went back to school to get my special ed while I taught full-time. All of my degree past that point was pretty much online, so I was required to come to class anywhere from 1 to 5 days a week. However, a lot of it, I never even met the instructor. I might have only seen their photo when they answered emails or scored my work and different things. So education programs have come a long way on being very, very flexible. You will have to do some sort of field experience while you're doing it, and I highly recommend that you do choose a program that has more versus less, so that you can get in and really get a feel for what you like, which ages of kids, what type of formats that you like, everything. Especially if you're going to go into special ed, there's a lot of different facets. What I do is pretty involved. It's not for everyone, but it is, to me, the most amazing job there is. So you will need to factor that in. You also spend close to a semester student teaching. It can be broken up different ways, but it is a very rewarding experience to be able to go and do that too. Where did I get my education? Long story short, many places. Ultimately, though, after I did my first degree, many things transferred, so then my education for teaching really happened at Winona State University, Morningside University, and then I've picked up additional credits other places to add other endorsements and or to continue renewing my license. So my journey really is, I guess, an interesting one. So I started in retail and had went to college for that, really wanted to be in design of some type, and I really wanted to continue up the scale. I wanted to work in a big city, but then I got married and had children, and really decided maybe I should look at which parts were my favorite parts of the job, because I was working close to 80 hours a week and was away from my family a lot of the time, and that wasn't going to work for me. So then I decided, well, I guess I'll try being a para to see if I really like education, and I did. I am a creative person by nature, and education allows me the mental creativity to be able to think outside the box to help reach my learners, and that was a good avenue and way for me to excel in that area, even though it's not pencil on paper or paint on a canvas. It was super open to be able to look at what each learner needs to help them succeed. So after I got into education, then as I mentioned, I actually subbed for a bit. And subbing is great for many people. I disliked it very much because it did not work very well for having a young family. But I can see the benefits of it if you are somebody who doesn't have a family yet, or when you're later on in your years, it would be very advantageous to not have all of the paperwork that comes along with education. However, then I worked for 2 years as a second grade teacher, my very favorite grade if I had to pick only one. And I had a great time in there, but my school was ready to make some cuts, and so they asked if I would go back to special ed, not knowing that I had thought about that a long time anyway. And actually that was the reason I had wanted to be a teacher, was because I knew several people with autism, and I had really thought, I think I could help think outside the box and help those children and any other children like that. So I agreed to go back to school and started a room that in Minnesota would be called a DCD SP room, but they are called different things everywhere. So I work with children who have a lot of things going on, and I did that for many years, and then I switched schools and am still doing that. And I really enjoy all ages and all grades of that. That's why I said second grade is my favorite gen ed by far. However, in special ed, there's so many things to learn at all the different ages. I like it when they're getting ready to go out in the world on their own and preparing them for that. And I love when they first come to school and have to learn how to do all of those pieces. And I like everything in between. They are a unique group of learners, and I love that. I love that every day I come to work and I've written out my lesson plans and I know what I'm going to do, and there's a great likelihood that we will get to that, but there's also a great likelihood that we will have to teach things that the kids need to know right at those moments. I enjoy the challenge of thinking, how can I help this student succeed, and which things can I help to give them that will help them later in life as well. All of those challenges are just amazing to me. I couldn't speak more highly of a job, but like I said, I also caution that it's not for everyone. Get in there and do an observation. In fact, if you're watching this and I am still reachable, you can always come and observe in my room as well. I work in, like I said, an extreme shortage area, and I love what I do. The kids are amazing. Every day is a success story of some way. Our successes are so slow, but so important when we make them. So every day we get to count something as a great new moment for somebody. So the rest of my journey, I don't know where that will take me. I know that I will never want to be an administrator. Some people go into education with that in mind, that they want to be an administrator. I know that I never want to be, so we will see where else it takes me. Let's see. Starting pay. Starting pay really varies state by state. I'm not really going to give you one, but I'm going to say that the national low end of the average is about mid-30s, because that's set, but every state is very different. So make sure you look at that. Every state's requirements for licensure and continuing licensure vary too. So make sure you check into that. It's as simple as a Google search to get a good idea. And then when you're looking at specific locations that you want to teach, you can narrow that down by Google searching and even going to the individual school districts as well. So there is a national ranking of which states pay better overall and which states do not. But it isn't always about the pay. You really need to factor in cost of living, what else you want from it, depending on what your field of study would be. Mine being special ed. Not all special ed is a federal law. However, not everyone implements the same, so I look at the quality of programs in the states I would be going into, because I know what I'm expecting. I also try to look at their ideologies too. That's kind of involved, but it is the way that I find the most happiness and where I am going, and you definitely want that piece, as well as you need to be able to support yourself and or your family. Is there much competition? If you're going to school to be a teacher, has been a ton of competition. It's difficult for me to answer that right now because I am videoing this during our pandemic, and so I don't know. A lot of teachers are leaving the field because it is a very interesting time to be a teacher. However, typically if you're going into elementary, there's quite a bit of competition. You could expect to wait a while. You also might get in someplace and not have to wait, but there is typically a wait. High school, it depends on which content area. Math and science tend to be more difficult to fill when you're in those. Special education, there is always a shortage. English language learning, there is always a shortage. These two areas, there are not enough teachers to do that. They are growing areas, and special education, the burnout rate is pretty high for teachers. I really attribute that part to the pieces that I said before. You need to look beyond pay and look at what kind of support you're going to have, what the administrator is, what the ideology is behind it in the districts that you're going to. However, it is a very, very, very nice place to go when you find that good place. Special ed changes a lot and gives you a lot of opportunity to explore different things and different thoughts, and it definitely is constantly changing, but you definitely will be able to find a job. My particular area in Minnesota, called DCD-SP, is an extreme shortage. Those teachers are very difficult to find. What type of advancement opportunities there are? Education is different than other things for advancement opportunities. As far as financial advancement, usually you're on some type of system that lines up well to increased years of experience and increased education, and that increases your pay. We're salaried, so it's not like you can work harder than somebody else who came in with the same education and has the same years of experience and do better than them. It's just if you are doing well in your position and they continue to employ you, then you'll move along with that. As far as other advancement, if you want to go the route of being an administrator or anything else connected to it going on and being a college educator or whatever, you just have to check into what you need to do to accomplish those goals. So in your individual area would tell you whether or not they are of need in those areas or if you'll have to go someplace else. So it really just depends what you would like to do with that. So what does my average day look like? And what do I do? So I work with children who have a lot of interesting abilities. We're really supposed to say disabilities, but I don't like that word, just different abilities. So I work with children who might be on the spectrum, who might have medical concerns, they might have language delays, they might have physical barriers, they might have significant cognitive delays. It really just depends on what the mix is to end up in my particular classroom. And so what do I do? Usually when the students come in, they get off the bus and come into our room and we get them ready to go out and join their classes. And they join their classes typically at least once a day for socialization, and then they usually go to specials and other fun activities with the classrooms. They also go to lunch and recess, typically with their peers because they're all social. During the rest of the time, it really depends individualized. My program is so very individualized. One kid may be out of the room a lot, and one child may be in the room with me for a very, very long time during the day. As far as what do, I really reinforce everyone's goals, which are usually connected to many things, but particularly academics, so math, reading, and writing. Then they might also be connected to social skills, so being able to talk or interact with other people, communicate, I should say, instead of talk, and interact with other people, or could be functional skills. So being able to comb your hair and put your shoes on and things like that, cook lunch, or it could also be recreational skills, learning how to do the fun things. Really depends on the ages you're going to work with, and it depends on what their individual goals are. Some students don't need any help in one area, and some students need a lot of help in other areas. So it really depends. My day, I try to break up with a lot of learning, then we do a fun activity. Fun activity, really, classrooms might call them brain breaks, they might call them wiggle breaks, they might whatever. We just get up and do whatever the room needs at that moment. Those first few weeks are really crucial for us to understand as a staff in the room who is in the room and what do they need. So we have to work through those things and which things calm and which things get them a little more excited in case we need to move up their ability to engage with the lessons. So then we would want to essentially wake up their minds. So we do a lot of figuring out what they're going to need and intersperse that throughout the day. So other things that happen in my job that are not in a typical education setting, we take care of a lot of personal cares, and as you've heard, I've switched to we instead of I. It depends on your individual setting, how big the district is, and any number of other factors, whether or not I personally am responsible for this, or if it is the we as a staff. Typically, in a position like mine, you will have one or more paras with you. Para being a paraprofessional, oftentimes also called an associate or a teaching assistant, but somebody else who probably doesn't have a full teaching degree. They may or may not have education background, who just likes to work with children too, and probably finds the children in your room to be amazing, just like you probably do to be in this position. So they help you and support personal cares and taking care of whatever their day may be. We may need to take care of somebody's restrooming needs. We might have to help somebody get their lunch. Any of these additional things. We might take people to their specials, escort them to different classes, take them outside for recess. So we do all sorts of things. Throughout our day, there are different times where I wear the hat of the music teacher, the PE teacher. Not that I'm disrespecting their positions, they all do their own job as well, but if we have somebody who really accesses music and we can do that piece, then we might do that piece for a little while and work on some rhythms or something. So I really feel like my job is very varied every single day. And as far as after hours, since it did say average job, I was just rereading the question, or average day. My day is pretty much nonstop from the minute I get there to the minute I go home. That's not to say you don't have your scheduled breaks and things, but it is pretty much nonstop. So a lot of times the paperwork piece is either completed right after the students go home, or it is completed the next day. That really depends on you and how you would set that piece up. I am one who likes to be working with the kids when they're there, so I choose to do a lot of things in that first half an hour after school. Average day right now is crazy, and I'm not sure if I'm supposed to be bringing that up or not, but education has looked very different during all of this. It has been amazing to go online and do as much as we could that way. Face-to-face will always be my preferred method to deliver instruction to students, but going online with the learners that I have has been a rewarding experience as well, to be able to get to know families really, really well, and to think outside the box on how you can help children have access to things that they wouldn't typically utilize through technology, and to be able to see what you can do to help them learn. And it has been amazing to connect with the families, just amazing. Even though it is not my preferred method of delivery, because I think we lose some in not having that face-to-face, I do feel like it can be super rewarding. I have enjoyed thinking outside the box and really planning for everything they can. So as you can tell, I'm telling you this in the fall of 2020, and education will always be something that is ever changing, and hopefully we'll have some great things that come out of this. What soft skills are needed to work in this job? Well, you need a lot of leadership skills. You actually need the ability to talk to people. Doing a video is not my favorite thing to do, but as far as talking to people, I enjoy doing that. I love listening to the kids. I am more of an introverted personality, but you can be anywhere from an extrovert to an introvert. My job suits me well because not everybody is talking in my circle all the time. Sometimes they're communicating in other ways, so you need to be very perceptive to who is using nonverbal communication skills. Not necessarily even formal ones, just being able to read body language, but then also being able to read other forms of language. Sometimes you have to watch for facial expressions, body posturing, fidgeting, just all sorts of things. And you really should do that no matter what, but sometimes I think introverts are more in tune to those things just because we're more sit back and reflect before we weigh in on the situation, which works really well for my population in my classroom. But I had said leadership at the beginning, and leadership is that piece. Anytime you get an opportunity in middle school, high school, college, anything that you can do to practice leadership skills, that is great. You think when you're going into education, well, I'm kind of going to work on a team in a school under a principal or principals, and so I will have to work with others, but I won't have to lead. Well, in a classroom like mine, you are a leader, whether you want to think you are or not, and anyone who has a larger group of paras under them, you are a leader. Management and leadership skills go hand in hand, and you really need to have those. You have to be able to listen and understand what somebody is telling you, understand when somebody really just needs to vent about a moment, when somebody needs you to take action about things, and how to help that go. This has been a growing process for me. I was in management before, so that piece helped me transition into being the manager of my classroom. That's not where I like to spend my focus, but I also know it's extremely important. The people who are working with you need to feel like they have a voice. They need to feel like what they're doing with the children is just as important as what you are doing, and it very much is. I consider everyone who works in my room to be my right hand, my left hand. Oftentimes I tease them that they're also my right leg and my left leg. You can't do the job without them. You might want to, but you cannot. There are too many pieces to do in a classroom that's as involved as mine is that you cannot handle it by yourself just because you can't be in multiple places at one time. So it's important to build a really great relationship with the staff that you have with you so that you can ask things of them when times are getting stressful or difficult, or when you know they're just not feeling the best and they're there anyway. You really need to have those leadership skills, and I would really focus on being able to listen, being able to express yourself, remembering to encourage others and model that you're using I statements. There are times when people's feelings get in the way, and you need to be able to do that. I work in an area that is largely populated by females, the best profession in the world, but we're also very emotional. I know I can be ruled by my emotions and others can too, so just really modeling that piece too of staying in I statements. I feel this way when, because inevitably there will be pieces where you have to navigate some very tricky waters, and using those leadership skills and staying calm and remembering that everyone can have a different perspective and should have an opportunity to share that perspective is always important. So the other thing that I had shared with the person who asked me to do this that I really encourage you to do is go out and have as many experiences with as many different populations as you can. Although I had a friend who worked with children with autism, when I was in high school, there was no way I would have ever told you this is what I would have done for a living, and I definitely wouldn't have thought I would have done it happily. This is a passion of mine and super rewarding to do. I would not change what I do at all. I love it. This is always the population I seek out when we go places. My family tease me that not only am I a children magnet, but kind of this population comes to me too. And so I would just really encourage you. You might think that you're not going to like something, but experience it, especially if you're thinking and going into education. Get as many touches in different rooms as you can, just getting a feel for what they're like, because you never know where that piece might spark you as being your passion. So good luck in your future choices, and If I can be a help in any way, let me know. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and sorry for all of my pauses and looking away to read the screen. Have a really great day.